Hello, and welcome back to A Perfect Night to Die with me, your host, Mark Aston. As this is the first episode proper, it was only right that we should start with my friend and the inspirational story of his grandmother who died at the age of 99. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to lay out the intention of this podcast once again so it's a little bit clearer. I'm not sure that I nailed it in the introduction. So the purpose, the motivation, the reason for these discussions is not just a morbid fascination or curiosity with the thing that unites us and binds us. More, it is a belief that by discussing and sharing our fears, by doing so, they diminish. And in the space that's left behind, where our fear once existed, bravery, confidence, security, happiness, and peace, they flood into that space and enable us to live without the fear of the unknown and without the fear of this all coming to an end. Because basically what happens is we're born and we reside in this physical body and we begin this process of trying to figure things out, which starts as a child, having to navigate siblings, or up being an only child, our relationship with our parents, growing into adolescence, having to figure out how to live through puberty, through the teenage years, how to deal with our peers, how to find something that we want to do with our lives, to following a passion or not, then having children, having relationships that work or don't work, how to be a parent, how to grow older, how to be responsible, how to not be responsible. And then we get to our later years and realise that actually this is all coming to an end. What have we done? Oh dear, it's too late. Time to die. And the backdrop to all of this is this constant state of anxiety, because all of our fears and all of our worries are rooted back to the same thing, which is the fact that this is temporary. And whether we think about it or talk about it or just deny it, that knowledge is in us. It's part of us. It's intrinsic in who we are, that we are impermanent. There's a clock ticking, and that we have to navigate all of these things and figure all these things out with this clock constantly ticking. So let's dial down the anxiety, wind back the fear, share our stories, talk about the last great taboo, and live better lives as a consequence. And here is my dear friend Bernd talking about his experience. I think it's fair to say it was a life-changing experience with his grandmother and her quiet yet profoundly moving end. So let's just get straight into it. I'd be very grateful if you could share the story of your grandmother, who I believe you called Oma, because Oma is Austrian for grandmother. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you could just tell us about how she passed and the circumstances around her passing, which was the beginning of this year, wasn't it?
My Oma passed away this summer in August, actually, August 14th. And I was really lucky to be around and actually accompany her in her final journey. And it was just an incredible experience. I mean, besides all the sadness to have to say goodbye to a loved one, this was just an incredible experience, which I've never experienced before. And I'm very grateful to be able to, that I was part of it. And I'm glad to share this story with you.
So she was, I met her. I met her about,
yes.
It must be 15 years ago. And I'm guessing she didn't change from when I met her.
Nah, she didn't.
She was this very diminutive, tiny lady that was full of energy, and this very maternal figure who I remember was constantly bustling around the kitchen, cooking things, picking vegetables in the garden, digging the garden,
that was
cooking
her.
For us, and just basically looking after us.
That was her.
And I'm guessing that she hadn't changed very much.
No, she hadn't changed very much. Actually, she didn't change until a week before she transitioned, which was absolutely amazing. a week before she died, she was still in the garden picking weeds and like doing her thing, what she thought is important for her life. And yeah, amazing.
So you celebrated her birthday.
Her birthday was 3 months before in May, and yeah, everything everything was fine. We went to an Italian restaurant with her because she loved pizza, and actually we told the guy who runs the restaurant, and he was from I think from South Sicily or something, or Naples, I don't know, but a proper Italian dude. And when he found out that the lady is celebrating her birthday, he just took her by the arms and was dancing with her. And in the first, we were all looking at him like a bit scared. And the first minute, it felt kind of wrong because she was 99 years old and she had her little issues physically, of course. But we just watched her facial expression, and she loosened up within a few seconds, and she was dancing with this guy. And my mother recorded it on her telephone, so we have a little video clip that we really like to watch because it's Oma in full bloom. She's like, yeah. Anyway, she was always telling herself that the least thing she wants in her life is becoming a nursing case. She didn't want that, and that was just a wonderful lesson for me to be careful what you wish for, because like in Austria, I think in many places in the world, people say things they really don't want to happen in their life, just to reconfirm. I don't know what for, like language is so important. And Oma never said anything like this. She just said, I never want to be a nursing case. I don't want to, like cause you any trouble. And that happened within a week from picking weeds in the garden. She made a impressive transition. And I'm really glad that I met this person was my Oma and that I could witness.
So she lived with your mum and dad?
Yeah, well, that was the advantage. She and my opa, also her husband, they built a house that you visited in this little town south of Vienna. They built it, and they have one daughter, which is my mom, and she was very young, and so they kind of made a first floor for her that she can live there and whatever, do her thing. And then in the end, she met my dad, and they decided to make a proper apartment on top of the this is like a 2-story house. So the great advantage of my Oma was that she had her kids in the house basically. It was 2 separate apartments, but they were always there if she needed something. And in the end, like let's say, I don't really exactly know, but the last 5 years, maybe a bit more, she stopped cooking. She stopped preparing meals for herself, and my mother took this on, and she always made. She always prepared lunch for her. My Oma was always making. She woke up. She made her breakfast. Then she went upstairs to my parents to have lunch, and that's it. So once a day, she was not alone. She was not by herself. She always had someone to talk to, and I think this is also a factor why she aged that well. And it's more like a psychological support that she had.
So what happened? So she was active and everything seemed normal, and then
everything seemed normal. But I mean, for me, I always told her how much I love her and that I'm very thankful that I still have her, because she was 99 and everybody was like, yeah, you're gonna turn 100, we're gonna have a big party for your 100th birthday. And that's another thing, it's funny now. I remember that she always said, no, I don't want to become 100 years. I'm not gonna make 100 years. She always said that. And it also happened. So there again, this is a really important lesson for me, because I do believe in the power of the words when we speak something.
The spoken word, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, eventually it manifests. And my grandmother is the proof for it, for me, that everything she spoke out, she really wanted, and she repeated many times on many occasions that actually happened exactly the way she spoke it out and she wanted it, which is scary and nice in the same way because I mean we're in control of our verbal output. So she was a great teacher actually.
So in the last few weeks,
Back to the story. The last week, it was a very tricky situation because um, she was really fit and she looked really good. But then when something happened, like for example, she couldn't sleep, she had a really rough night, or she had problems with her stomach. She had a doctor, like let's say 2 months before her death, she went to a doctor because of some trouble in the stomach, and she knew she had that for many, many, many years. But then the doctor gave her a diagnosis and told her in her face she has a stomach cancer, which was totally unnecessary to tell that to a 99-year-old lady. And in the end, she always had that. She had that trouble in the stomach for all, like, as long as I know her. So definitely there was something wrong. But this diagnosis really messed her up in the head. She was always thinking about cancer, cancer. This is like a tough word, and it was not really necessary to tell her that. So she had trouble digesting this diagnosis. Anyway, 99 years, we knew that it could happen anytime, but still she was so fit. And then when she didn't sleep and when she had a rough night, you could see that she's really weak. And then the next day she was fit again. So it was from day to day. Every day was different. And one day in August, I don't know, I was around, but I was not there. And I got a call from my father, and he said that my grandmother, the ambulance came and they took her to the hospital because she was so weak she couldn't stand up anymore. And then I was super super worried because it was in the peak of the first Corona wave, and the restrictions were so intense. Like you couldn't go to the hospital. Only one person a day could visit her for like 30 minutes, and the person had to announce the name of the next person who would come the day after, and it was really complicated. And I thought, no way, this can't be. I can't really say goodbye to my grandmother in the hospital, and maybe I don't even get the chance because my mother is first in line. It's like it's her mother, so I didn't want to interfere, and I was really worried for a day because the very next day I was in the house, in my parents' house, and I hear the garage opening, and then she came. They brought her back. They brought her back home because she was fine and nothing happened. And that was about a week before she passed, and I really really intensely enjoyed her presence. Because I knew this was a gift. It was a super super something very amazing that happened, because it could also have been that she would never return from the hospital, and that would have been the last time I've seen her. And I got the chance to really really witness her last week and be with her.
amazing. And were they treating her for stomach cancer?
Um, Not at all. They didn't do anything for that. I mean, she had some kind of medicine when the pain was really strong, but in the end, there was nothing to do, and you wouldn't do any surgery for a person that age.
So you knew she was terminal with stomach cancer, and she knew that she was terminal. So you were just waiting out for her to die, basically.
Basically, yes, yes. But the stomach cancer was not really the big issue, actually. I mean, maybe it was the cause of death in the end, that the organs kind of collapsed at some point. But she could deal with it. She knew when to eat and what to eat and what is good for her and what is bad for her, and if it's the cold or warm or whatever. So it was not omnipresent in our mind, her stomach cancer. It was just, yeah, I mean, it was just her age, and then also she always said she's not gonna make 100, and all these things together. But basically, a wake up call was that she never actually had to undergo any tough surgery. I mean, she broke her ankle once, but she basically never been to the hospital. And when she got taken to the hospital, yeah, I was, I was really worried because of all these corona restrictions.
And when she came back, could you see the difference? I mean, did she appear like healthy again? Did she bounce back?
Yeah, she was. You could see in her face that, she's absolutely content being home, sitting in her chair. She still had this robe, this hospital robe. She looked so sweet in this thing, but she was happy just to be back. I mean, um, it's when you know a person that well, then the mimic, the facial expression, you can tell, and it was just a really really beautiful thing to see her sitting there, kind of like being back. For her, it was, I don't know. She always said, because when I told her that I'm so grateful that we still have her and we love her and we're really happy to have her around, she always said, she responded that she feels needed and she wants to be here, which is another big thing because I actually have never heard an old person saying that before, and it felt really good. It just, it felt good. Usually, old people in that age, they tend to complain about this and that, and she never complained. Sometimes she was just, you could see she was in pain and she was holding her stomach, and obviously the cancer did its thing, but she was not complaining about anything. This was absolutely amazing. She was so positive.
Did you then witness a slow decline?
Not at all. The decline was rapid. It was, as I said, from um, she had her routine, like breakfast and lunch with my parents, and then in the afternoon she was reading her newspaper. She was the house of my parents has a big garden, like really big, and it's kind of like a small park. And she was always walking around. So she was in the fresh air. She had her routine, and from one day to the other, she would not get up anymore. She would just stay in bed because of different issues. I don't know. And that was the beginning of her transition because she never did that before. She was never staying in bed. She was always doing something. You met her. She was this very active, tiny old lady that was always doing something, like preparing food, whatever. So she didn't do anything. She was kind of lethargic, lying in bed and breathing heavily. And in a very very short time, you could see how she's aging. It's like she would be. She was 99 years old, but if I show you the photos of like 1 week before her death, you would not believe she looks like 80 or 85, but definitely not like close to 100. And with in when she was lying in bed, it was going super quick, and she aged like she would catch up all these 20 years where she stayed the same and didn't age. And then you could really see that death is knocking, and kind of like telling her that it's time to go. And she was absolutely not ready for this. And even on her deathbed, she said, "No, I still want to be here for you. I feel needed." And this was, on the one hand, heartbreaking and really, really sad. But on the other hand, it was just perfect, like there's this saying that you should leave when it's best or something. And she was not, I mean, she was suffering because of the stomach pain, but she was not suffering at all. She was just fighting, resisting. She was not ready to let go. She couldn't let go. She had unfinished business, it seemed. She just couldn't cope with the fact that it's time to go. And that changed also. That process was absolutely incredible, that I could really be super close and witness this.
Because presumably that you know that she's very close to dying.
Yeah.
So you're super focused, but you have this quality time that you know is going to come to an end soon.
Yeah.
And what an amazing thing!
It's absolutely amazing. I'm telling you, it's the first time in my life that I could actually witness this, and it's such a, of course it's super sad, and she's still so missed because in my family all the structure has been disrupted, and my parents are a little bit out of their, it's that kind of suffering and dealing with the loss that it takes probably a month until it gets back to normal, and she will always be missed. But this experience for me, I mean, first of all, she had she said goodbye to all her loved ones. She got the chance that everybody showed up, and she could have some privacy with everybody. So I don't know what she did, but for me, I was really close to her, but in a physical way, there was always a distance. She was very tiny, and I couldn't really, I couldn't really hug her. I could feel that her tiny bones and everything. So I was just holding her hand most of the time to just have this physical connection. But when she said goodbye to me, when we were alone, all of a sudden she was lying in bed, and she kind of sat up, and she said to me I should hold her. So I put my arms around her, and she squeezed me. It was so strong. I could not believe where all that physical power comes from, because she was hugging me like I could hardly breathe. And it felt so amazing, because my whole life I've never had anything like this close physical encounter with my grandmother, that I could really feel her, like, because she would hug me so tightly, and I just enjoyed this time. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. We didn't speak one word while she was hugging me, and it felt like, it's hard to say, but probably a minute or even more than a minute. She really squeezed hard, and all of a sudden she let go a big sigh and fell back in her pillow. And I remember exactly, her arms were going upwards uh, beside her head, looking up, and she had this big smile in her face. And so basically, it's kind of like she ticked something off her list. It was so amazing to see that. And after that, it went really quick. I mean, that was probably one day or one day before she died, and I came every day to visit her. And yeah, she died August 14th at four in the morning, and probably I saw her last time nine in the evening. And she was the other thing. What I wanted to tell you is that what I witnessed, what changed, is she was stressed. Before she said goodbye, she was really stressed, and her breathing was really hard. She was breathing very hard, and you could see that she's dealing with something. And from 1 hour to the next, her breathing relaxed to the total calmness. She was, I don't know what was going on inside her, but she was so calm and so relaxed, and just breathing was so normal. And her skin changed also. Everything became very soft, like you put that softener filter on a lens, on a camera. It really happened that the color, she was very pale before. The color came back. She had absolutely amazing skin. Her hair, everything was super pretty. I mean, she was lying there in her pillow, super relaxed. Breathing was absolutely normal and very peaceful, and she looked really beautiful. And that was the time when that was the last night I saw her, like the evening before she died at night, and she couldn't open her eyes anymore. And she was still responding, because I was always holding her hand and telling her that I'm here and that everything is good, and I'm glad that she's still here. That's all I told her. And she was responding. I mean, she wasn't saying much, but you could see her mouth. She put on a little smile, but the eyes were closed. She couldn't open them anymore. So she was already traveling in between worlds. It was amazing. It was just so intense. And at one point, I asked her, um, how it is, what she's going through, what she's seeing, what she's feeling, and where she is, and if she knows that, if she can tell me something. I was really interested because she was so responsive. And then she turned her head towards me, but still eyes closed, and she said, "Everything is so bright, and it's all white and bright." And when I asked her, like she said that with such a enthusiastic power in her voice that I'm like, whoa, she's like, it was hard to put it in words because it's an experience that's very special. But anyway, I asked her if it's beautiful, and she just responded, "It's so beautiful. It's very, very beautiful." And that was the last words. And it's so nice. It's almost sounds like a cheesy movie, but I'm telling you,
it so doesn't.
It's so amazing that I was always, death is always a fascination for me since childhood, and I was reading a couple of books from Moody and all this stuff, and it's always everybody who has this near-death experience who can talk about it is saying about a tunnel of light and bright and warm and like clouds. And it sounds like cliche. It sounds like, yeah, whatever. Something is happening in the brain, and this is all this chemical output. Well, I don't know. But then hearing that firsthand from my grandmother on her deathbed, we never had these kind of conversations. We were not talking about death or anything. And she's just reconfirming everything that I already heard from different sources, but of course not in that intensity because I had no emotional ties to this. It's just like information, secondhand information. But then experiencing this firsthand, that's so valuable for me because it reconfirms that it's all good. And there is not one reason to be afraid of death. It's just a question about letting go and accepting what is. And I think if you stop fighting, I could see it in the face of my grandmother. When she gave up the fight, everything went the right way. It was just amazing. And then she just didn't, I was not there, but my parents told me that they checked on her at 5 a.m, and yeah, she didn't breathe anymore. She was not fighting. She was just gliding over to changing her form. It was intense, I'm telling you.
And nature conspired to give you a bit of a show as well, didn't it?
What do you mean?
The storm.
Oh my God, this I forgot. Thank you. Yeah. We were talking about this. Oh, this is absolutely amazing. I mean, I don't really want to emphasize it too much because then it sounds like I was tripping or something, but it is so amazing because it was midsummer, and I'm telling you, from the day she went to the hospital, the weather changed, and it was really hot before, which was also a bit of exhausting for her. Like she, with the heat, she didn't really deal really well. So that's why I bought her this air condition for her last days. But yeah. So anyway, when she came back from hospital, the weather was overcast, but in a nice way. It was not dark, but it was, like there was a layer of clouds that protected it from the sun. So, and it was raining, but not. It's hard to explain. It was kind of this particle of water coming down that felt really nice, but you would not get wet. I mean, you could walk with a shirt, and you could feel it's just like someone would spray water on you, very fine particles of water. It was all the time like this from the day she couldn't get up anymore. So there was like a big storm coming up, and that was the first days before the storm. It turned out that it cooled down a little bit, and it was raining. And when I actually left her that evening, when she told me that everything is bright and light, that night I had a road trip for like an hour and a half, and I was driving with Verena, my girlfriend, to our country house, and there was this very, very strong lightning, and there was this kind of flashes that would, for a part of a second, everything was totally white and brighter than daylight. I mean, I'm sure you experienced this. Sometimes in summer this happens, that you get these flashes, and it was totally trippy. And I had the feeling that Oma picked this night for her transition, because she was already saying things like everything is bright and this and that. And on the way back home from the visit, I don't know, everything felt right. You know, it was just yeah, nice that you're doing what you're doing, because I can only reconfirm Perfect Night to Die. For her, she's amazing. How I didn't really expect that from her, that she was always very quiet and humble, and never put much focus on her persona, but such a leading this manifestation in such a way, it's something that I really want to do the same. You know, I became very careful what I say. I don't want to say anything what I don't want, just to get back in a kind of victim role, that to have other people pity or feel sorry for me. That's all shit. She never did that. And then in the end, she had that absolutely amazing journey.
And what a gift she left you.
Absolutely.
The hairs on my arms have been standing up for about the last 10 minutes.
Me too.
With you telling me this, and although she doesn't know it, she left me a gift too, which was this podcast, which is why I wanted this to be the first conversation that we had, because what a perfect night to die. Thank you, Oma, and thank you for telling me and everybody that's listening this incredible story of you and your beautiful grandmother.
It's a great pleasure, and good job, brother.
Thank you.